Pokemon Red and Blue are games about being Michael Jordan in 1996, a god among infants, though I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Hi, I'm Jason Graves, never trust any posers who need a haircut, and let's talk about why the best Pokemon games are the originals. Or rather, let me talk about Pokemon while you potentially listen or type a comment without watching any further. Presently, we take Pokemon for granted, like it was always a foregone conclusion, a slam dunk guarantee. But let's pretend that you live in Japan and it's 1996. Analyzing the situation, Pokemon was a weird game, and it was an even stranger hit game. Think about it, the Game Boy was 7 years old. 94 and 95 were years of definite decline for the platform, with most notable titles being demakes of popular mainstream games. The best-selling Game Boy games of 1995 were Street Fighter II and Donkey Kong Land. All the notable games you think of on the Game Boy, Tetris, Metroid, Mario Land, Zelda, we are years removed from all that. 7 years in, this is like if a 3DS game came out in 2018. Hell, they weren't even making games for the Game Boy Advance 7 years after that came out. So you have a platform with no momentum. Not only that, it came from out of nowhere, or more specifically, Game Freak, whose notable back catalog consisted of Mendel's Palace, Pulseman, Smart Ball. Maybe you've heard of Mario and Wario, that mouse game that only came out in Japan? Pokemon was being worked on as early as 1991. It was trapped in development hell for years. So we can agree that all these are red flags. You have an aging platform, an unproven developer, and a game that is taking many more years longer to make than it should. It is a mechanics-driven, role-playing game, something known at the time for being a little more complex than your average game. So you've got a complex game coming out for the Game Boy, a platform which was arguably dated the day it was conceived, 7 years later, and yet it still managed to take over the world. The original Pokemon games are such masterpieces, they ingrain themselves so deep into the collective culture, so fast, that nobody even questions it. The fact that this franchise was ever allowed to exist is sort of a miracle. These games get so many things so extraordinarily right that its makers are selling largely the same game, chasing their own tails to this day. To play Pokemon, a typical moment-to-moment experience is to be walking along your merry way when suddenly a kid approaches you, spouts a sentence fragment which wouldn't make sense in any context in the world, and then has the gall, the cojones to challenge you, naively believing that his loser rat or his dumb caterpillar will do anything at all to dent your meticulously constructed team. Pokemon is the best execution of the, quote, chosen one story archetype, not only in video games, but I truly believe it is the best example in all of fiction. Now, if that sounds strange to you, and you've never thought of Pokemon as a chosen one story, well, there's not a prophecy or any dumb shit about how you're gonna free the land from evil or anything, but believe you me, it is most certainly a chosen one game. It is a game where you are chosen because you are the best. This is a game where the most important thing to the world is taming and battling these creatures. The vast majority of NPCs have little or nothing else to talk about. In this world, if you are not a Pokemon trainer yourself, then you are standing around talking about other Pokemon related things. It is a power fantasy where you are the most talented person at the most popular thing in the world. You're like Tom Brady in a world where the entire population plays football. Or, I don't know, you're like Pele if you're not American.
I didn't think I'd ever need to tell you this, but I would be a bad parent if I didn't. Soccer was invented by European ladies to keep them busy while their husbands did the cooking.
And the sports analogy isn't even my invention. They coat that head to toe with this sort of iconography. Pokemon train, like an athlete might. There's a league, like a sports league. And there's a Hall of Fame, like a sports Hall of Fame. It's all a giant competition. There's a clear number one, a clear-cut best, a clear champion, and that's our finishing goal. And it's all the motivation you need. It's the carrot dangled on a stick to get you through Pokemon. You want to be the best. Right from the beginning, you are a novelty. In a world with over 100 Pokemon, your starter is something unique. You don't start with a fucking Weedle like these stupid, no-talent kids. You start with a Squirtle, a Pokemon you're not going to see again. It is reinforcement that you are special. Nicknames. You are the only trainer in the entire game which will have nicknames for their Pokemon, and they really help to bring this concept home. Sure, Pippin here is a Victory Bell, one of many, easily duplicated, but Pippin is my special Victory Bell. You may see others, but you won't hear it by any other name. Before Pokemon in the past in these monster collecting RPGs, take something like Shin Megami Tensei. They had a real hard time distinguishing between who the good monsters were and who the bad monsters were. For instance, some demons will have a complete society of their own. They'll live in towns, they'll converse with you, and they're cordial people. But on the other hand, some of the exact same demons will just indiscriminately attack you for really no discernible reason because they appear to all be the same. In these games, there's a sort of dissonance between why some of the monsters are civilized, but most of them aren't. Pokemon masterfully cuts the types of battles in half. You have wild encounters and trainer encounters. It's perfect. It's a narrative explanation as to why there's this kind of dichotomy. And not only that, but it also lets you choose and control when you get into fights. Typically, in any other RPG, if you're outside of a town, you're liable to get into a fight. But in Pokemon, there are clear, marked places where you will get into a battle. That is in tall grass, that's in caves, or that is in the sightline of a trainer. If you're not in any of those spaces, then you're not going to be in a fight, generally speaking. The Pokemon themselves are crosses between utilitarian battle partners, logos, and products all in their own right. Each Pokemon is its own brand, and this commitment to consistently excellent design legitimately sells these ideas. If you're going to make an RPG where the whole point is to recruit other monsters to join your team, and you're going to like these things enough to trade with other people, they damn well better be good. And this game consistently hits home runs. Sure, in other RPGs you could talk to and recruit the animals, but this was the game where you would want to talk to the animals. So many different Pokemon could have been the Pikachu in an alternate universe. The face of the entire franchise. If Pikachu had never existed, honestly, if Pikachu had never existed, do you think that Pokemon would be in a different spot as a franchise? Sure, obviously the face would be different, but let's say if not Pikachu, maybe Meowth could be the Pokemon that represents them all. Why not Clefairy? Why not Charizard? The design sensibilities of this game are incredible. There are so many viable, just put them on the front, mascots that legitimately sell games. And something interesting about Pokemon when compared to contemporary RPGs is that it's completely built around, it's framed around an in-game bestiary where you can see monsters that you have encountered and you may or may not have them at your disposal. Yes, that's common now, but I can't think of many other games with a bestiary in 1996. As for the battles themselves, they're genius. It preaches diversity. You can only have 6 Pokemon and 4 moves per Pokemon, leaving you with 24 abilities. The battles avoid being mash A to win by their mere nature alone. There's no default attack like in most RPGs. Everything is an equal choice. Not only that, but as your Pokemon are leveling up, it makes you decide on the spot what abilities to keep and which ones to permanently throw away. They're not like swappable, equipable skills. They are permanent choices with real outcomes that matter. And the most well-documented reason that Pokemon is great is that it's a social event. The different versions, branching evolutionary paths for a specific creature. Not only could you do it, but they went out of their way to facilitate reasons for you to trade with other people. Not only that, but the core concept of the game, that you are the special, you are the talent, you want to be the very best. This concept extends out into the real world. Playing Pokemon by yourself is the ultimate confidence builder, but playing it with other people, on the other hand, well, that's a humbling experience. If everyone in the game was no match for my team, then what chance does my classmate or Jimmy from accounting have? Naturally, you want to test your might. It's like if you could plug a second controller into Final Fantasy and proceed to play it like it's Street Fighter 2. As anyone will tell you, this is not a tightly designed, well-polished, well-programmed game, and it catches magnitudes of shit too much for it. It's glitchy, has all kinds of balance issues, the quirks are too many to list, and I don't care. The original Pokemon games were trailblazers. Detractors will say that it's not competitively balanced. Well, you know what else isn't competitively balanced? Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy II, Breath of Fire, Final Fantasy III, ActRaiser, Soul Blazer, Final Fantasy IV, Earthbound, Shin Megami Tensei, Final Fantasy V, The Seventh Saga, Wizardry, Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Wild Arms, Dragon Quest, Paladin's Quest, Spanky's Quest, Quest 64, King's Quest, Cat Quest, Beast Quest, Costume Quest, Space Quest, Oculus Quest, Quest 65, Quest 64 for the Game Boy Color, Quest IT Management, Quest Waste Removal Company, Ultima, Final Fantasy VII, and I don't see people giving any of these games nearly as much shit. The truth is that the original Pokemon games are two of the most scrutinized games ever made. And if you hold most games of this era up to the same kind of light, not a lot, all of them are going to have warts. Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue are masterpieces as far as I'm concerned. Not only has Game Freak never made a better game, but it belongs with Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, and Persona 5 as some of the greatest Japanese RPGs ever made. Sure, there have been more balanced, better thought out iterations on this game, but that is all they are. This game's vision with different, albeit sturdier, materials making them happen. But at the end of the day, this is the giant whose shoulders we're standing on. Pokemon Red and Blue were earth-shaping events. They created the ground you stand on. Any and all the games which came after simply do a pretty good job of mowing their lawn.